Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the inner sanctum.
Don-maclaughlin, mandel-kramer in a fictionalized depiction of the FBI in Counterspy, as it was originally broadcast 73 years ago today, September 8th, 1949, the case of the courageous Come On. And we thank you for joining us on this sure happy it's Thursday, 8th day of September, 251st day of the year, 114 days remaining until we get to the end of the year. A powerful hurricane hit Galveston, Texas on this date in 1900, 8,000 people killed. Private Thomas Highgate became the first British soldier to be executed for desertion on this date in 1914 during World War I. In 1921, 16-year-old Margaret Gorman won the Atlantic City pageant's Golden Mermaid Trophy. Pageant officials would later dub her the first Miss America. Germany admitted to the League of Nations on this date in 1926. In 1930, the Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company would begin marketing Scotch transparent tape, 3M, back in 1930. The U.S. Senator from Louisiana, Huey Long, nicknamed Kingfish, fatally shot in Louisiana's Capitol building in 1935. In 1945, troops arrived from the U.S. to partition the southern part of Korea in response to Soviet troops occupying the northern part of the peninsula a month earlier, back in 1945. In San Francisco on this date in 1951, 48 nations signed a peace treaty with Japan in formal recognition of the end of the Pacific War. And in Huntsville, Alabama in 1960, President Eisenhower formally dedicated the Marshall Space Flight Center. Premiering on NBC on this date back in 1966, the original Star Trek, it would only last 3 seasons. In 1970, the hijacking and subsequent destruction of 3 airliners to Jordan by Palestinians in 1970. The events to follow would later become known as Black September. In Washington on this date in 1971, the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts inaugurated, with the opening feature being the premiere of Leonard Bernstein's Mass. President Ford on this date in 1974 pardoned President Richard Nixon for any crimes Nixon may have committed while in office.
I, Gerald R. Ford, President of the United States, pursuant to the pardon power conferred upon me by Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, have granted, and by these presents do grant, a full, free, and absolute pardon unto Richard Nixon for all offenses against the United States which he, Richard Nixon, has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from July 20, 1969 through August 9, 1974.
It's believed in part that pardon may have turned a significant part of the American populace against Ford and his programs. Also on this date in 1974, Evel Knievel's attempt to jump the Snake River Canyon in Twin Falls, Idaho, failed after a parachute prematurely deployed on his sky cycle. In 1975, U.S. Air Force Tech Sergeant Leonard Matlovich, a decorated veteran of the Vietnam War, appeared in his Air Force uniform on the cover of Time magazine with the headline printed in all uppercase, "I am a homosexual." He was later given a general discharge. An air tragedy on this date in 1944, U.S. Air Flight 427 from Chicago's O'Hare to Pittsburgh International Airport crashed. Here's an eyewitness to the aftermath.
It was just like World War II, but I never seen anything that bad when I was in World War II. It's a horrible sight. There's debris hanging from the trees, parts of suitcases, seats, the whole works, and probably parts of flesh. It's dark up there, but everything was hanging. It's just a horrible sight.
All 132 aboard that crash on this date in 1994 died. Attorney General Janet Reno named former Senator John Danforth to head an independent investigation of the 1993 fire at the Branch Davidian Church near Waco on this date in 1999 in response to revelations in the film Waco, The Rules of Engagement that contradicted the official government stories. On this date in 2003, a 12-year-old schoolgirl, Brianna Lahar, sued by the Recording Industry Artists of America for sharing music illegally. I love these idiots in the recording industry that believe that you have to do stuff like this. You know, we are, and I will say this, and I've said it before, Sony Music believes that they own all of recorded history. And so we get criticized all the time, particularly on YouTube, for some of the stuff that we air. They claim they own the rights to history, and that's just ridiculous. NASA's unmanned spacecraft Genesis crash-landed on this date in 2004 when its parachute failed to open. It was on this date in 2006 NASA launched OSIRIS-REx, its first asteroid sample return mission. The probe to visit Bennu and expected to return with samples next year. Passing away on this date in history, singer-actress Dorothy Dandridge, also game show host Bud Collyer, actor-comedian Zero Mostel, country music Hall of Famers Don Williams. He was passing away on this date, as on that same day, Troy Gentry of the country duo Montgomery Gentry. This is the birth date of Sam Drucker from Green Acres, Frank Cady, born on this date, comedian Sid Caesar, Peyton Place author Grace Metalius, and Peter Sellers and Patsy Cline, singing that great song from Willie Nelson, Crazy. Bernie Sanders is 81 today. Heather Thomas, remember her from the Fall Guy? She is 65 today. Till Tuesday lead singer Amy Mann, 62. Scotty Levy, better known as Raven to many leagues of wrestling fans, 58 today. From Dancing with the Stars, Brooke Burke is 51. Actor-wrestler David Arquette is 51. And all the money he made from his... we remember David Arquette from some of the silly stuff he did. But he was also World Championship Wrestling's champion. And he was criticized for that. But he said, and he's doing make-goods. He's still wrestling. He's training hard for that. But all the money he made during that tenure donated to the families of Owen Hart, Brian Pillman, and Darren Drostoff, all victims of accidents in pro wrestling. From MTV and Fox Business, Kennedy is 50 years old today. Singer Pink is 43. And from Home Improvement, Jonathan Taylor Thomas is 41. Did I even say in all of that, talking about David Arquette, that he's 51 years old today and still wrestling? Go figure. That's some of the days, some of the people born on this date, on this 8th day of September. If this happens to be your birthday...
Hi, we're the Four Freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
After all that mumbling, I need a break, and then we're going to get to Don-Maclaughlin, Mandel-Kramer, an episode of Counterspy in the Case of the Courageous Come On from 73 years ago today, September 8th, 1949. I'm Wyatt Cox. You're listening to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox right here on your favorite radio station on a Thursday.
You know, it's true. Difficult times have a way of focusing us. We have to think about what matters most when it comes to our spending, our health care. No doubt. This is why so many people are joining Medi-Share right now. Medi-Share is a trusted way to save up to 50% on your monthly healthcare costs. More than 400,000 people have already made the switch. It's pretty obvious why, too, especially now during this challenging season with healthcare costs and out-of-pocket expenses going up. Medi-Share can save you a lot of money. The typical family saves $500 a month. And Medishare is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry that's worked beautifully for 29 years. There are different options to choose from to fit your budget. I'll give you the number here in a second, and if you call, you can get a price within 2 minutes. Maybe now is the perfect time to make the switch and start saving. Here you go. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite radio station. We're listening this hour to an episode of Counterspy starring Don-maclaughlin, Mandel-Kramer from 73 years ago, September 8th, 1949.
This is David Harding. Because of the importance of tonight's Counterspy case, following our dramatization, there will be a special message from the Vice President of the United States of interest to all Americans.
Pepsi-Cola, P-E-P-S-I. That's your smartest cola buy. Pepsi-Cola presents Counterspy.
Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy. Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy.
Harding, Counterspy, calling Washington.
United States Counterspies, especially appointed to investigate and combat the enemies of our country, both at home and abroad.
Tonight, the case of the courageous Come-On. Another Counterspy report to the American people. It is a scene truly out of the Old West, a dance and gambling hall crowded with hard-riding, fast-shooting men enjoying themselves, but at any moment ready for action. Suddenly, the swinging doors fly open. A tall, languid cowpoke stands framed in them. The crowd quiets down as the cowpoke ambles to the bar and stops in front of a well-dressed, shifty-eyed man.
Well, dude, it's sundown, and I'm still in town.
You don't take advice easy, Steve Morgan.
I'm choosy about whose advice I take, dude. I don't like yours. I give you 5 seconds to draw.
Now, look, Steve, you don't want to...
Okay, that's it. Cut! Camera will print that take. All right, boys, clear the set so we can do the fight scene next. Oh, Gary!
Well, how did it go, my great director? Okay?
Swell. Great strong jaw stuff.
Thanks.
You've got a visitor, Gary. Dr. Hobart Wayland. This is Gary Marlowe. Steve Morgan in this picture we're shooting.
Well, how do you do, Mr. Marlowe? It's quite a thrill meeting you in person after seeing you in so many films.
Thank you, Doctor.
May I present my assistant, James Dover?
Oh, hello, Mr. Dover. Oh, it's all right, Mr. Marlowe. I can shake hands with my left. Get used to it after being without a right arm a couple of years. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't notice. Okay. Everyone spots a leg first.
Mr. Marlowe, is there somewhere we could talk privately?
Why, my dressing room. Just follow me.
To get to the point, Mr. Marlowe, I'm heading the Institute for Disabled Workers, and we're embarking on a large fundraising campaign.
Well, maybe I'd better save your time, Dr. Wayland. All my charitable contributions are handled by my business manager.
We're not looking for charity, Mr. Marlowe.
Jimmy?
Why is it every time you guys see somebody without an arm or a leg, you think of tin cups and begging?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought...
Sure, I know you thought we're looking for a handout. Charity, huh? Did you ever take any, Mr. Marlowe? It sticks in your craw.
Jimmy, you better wait outside.
I'm sorry, Doctor. Believe me, Mr. Dover, I didn't mean...
My fault, Mr. Marlowe. I fly off the handle too easy.
Wait outside, Jimmy. I'll finish our business with Mr. Marlowe.
All right, Doctor. I'm sorry again. I'm always being sorry. Doctor, I didn't mean to hurt him.
No one does. You see, Mr. Marlowe, that's what my institute is for. To educate the public to the abilities of disabled people. To accept a man, minus an arm and a leg like Jimmy, for instance, as a man, not a cripple.
Dr. Wayland, any way I can help you, I will.
Well, thank you, Mr. Marlowe. You can by contribution. Not of your money, but of your time.
Yes?
A month from now, we're holding a benefit in New York City. It's to raise money to set up a chain of industrial and liberal arts schools for the disabled, so they can become self-employed.
A month from now, you said?
Yes. Now, I'd like you, the famous Western film star, to be our master of ceremonies. We'll have a full program of stars and celebrities.
Why, I think I can do it, Dr. Whalen. I'll have to clear it with my agent in my studio, but that should be simple.
Splendid, Mr. Marlowe. Thanks for your cooperation. I'll have my secretary, Miss Vicky Brent, call you for a final confirmation. Good day, sir.
To David Harding, United States Counterspies, Washington, from United Stage and Screen Actors Union, pursuant to Tax Bureau Memorandum. This is to notify you that members of our union are being solicited to appear at a benefit performance for the Institute for the Disabled. Dr. Hobart Whalen, Director. We are notifying our members they may appear unless you notify us to the contrary.
Mr. Harding, the telegram just came in for you.
Let's see, Peter. Oh, yes.
What's it all about?
Oh, that's right. You were out of town on the Horn case when this memorandum was issued.
I must have been. I don't know what it refers to.
Charity benefit performances. The Tax Bureau has been having trouble with them.
Oh? How?
Well, in some instances, the tax regulations allow entertainers to deduct contributions of their services to charity just as if they had donated cash. But there were a number of benefits last year that were nothing but highly organized rackets.
Oh, I get it. The tax people wouldn't allow the deductions for playing those benefits.
That's right. So we've worked out an arrangement with them and the various entertainers' unions. They notify us of scheduled benefits. We make a routine investigation.
Do the sponsors of the benefits know about it?
Not if we give them a clean bill of health.
And if we don't?
No benefit. Unless they want to promote one for themselves in the penitentiary.
Fine. For once we get a chance to stop a crime before it's committed.
That's about it. So put this institute and this Dr. Hobart Whalen through a routine investigation, and then we can forget it. Unless, of course, it turns out to be not routine.
Yes, Mr. Marlowe? Well, this is Dr. Whalen's secretary. I'll give him your message just as soon as he gets back here to the office. And we'll see you in New York in a month. Goodbye.
The great Gary Marlowe, Vicky?
Yes, Jimmy. He says he'll MC the benefit performance.
Wonderful.
You're not very enthusiastic about it, are you, Jimmy?
Sorry, Vicky, I've got the blues.
Vicky, Jimmy, I have splendid news, splendid news.
What is it, Dr. Whalen?
Well, I've just talked to the management of Coliseum Hall in New York by transcontinental phone. They're going to let us have the hall for our benefit for just expenses. They're giving up their usual profit.
Wonderful, Doctor. Isn't it, Jimmy?
Yeah, great.
Well, what's the matter?
Jimmy's a little down in the dumps today.
Oh?
Doctor, it's just that I haven't been doing anything. Just hanging around, acting like a pitch to soften people up. I walk in, they took a look at me, and they go woozy. And, well, I can't stand the pity in their eyes when they see what the war did to me.
I know how you feel, boy. That's why your job is the toughest of all.
Yeah?
Because you've got to stand that pity. The misplaced pity of a lot of well-meaning people. You've got to do that so we can break the ground and educate them to know that you don't need pity. We've got to show people that a boy like you is well able to take care of himself. Show them in a dramatic manner that they'll never forget.
Maybe you're right, Doctor.
Of course I have. Now, I just made train reservations to New York. You go down the station, get those tickets. On the double. And don't tell me that you can't do that with one leg. I know you better.
Okay, Dr. Whalen. Sorry. On a double.
Now, Vicky, think I set the boy straight?
No question about it.
Funny thing is, every word I said was true.
And you didn't mean a single one.
The important thing is, he thinks I did.
Yeah, he does.
Now, what's the matter with you, Vicky?
Him.
Him? You falling for that half-man?
Shut up.
No, wait a...
I'm working this con game with you. That doesn't mean I have to like it.
What brought on this sudden distaste?
I just got a mental picture of Jimmy when he finds out that you and I are phony.
Really? Was he heartbroken?
Why don't
the
you...
tears were streaming down his face. Touching sight.
Doc, what do you use for a heart?
A pump composed of animal tissue like every other human being.
Don't flatter yourself.
All right, I'll change that. Like every other animal in the jungle you call civilization.
Doc.
The survival of the fittest. The strong eat the weak. I'm strong, Vicky. The kid's a sucker. In fact, he's a cripple. Doesn't change that. Simply makes him better bait to lure on the healthy suckers.
Okay, Doc. No lectures.
Whatever you say, Vicky. Just don't turn into a sucker yourself.
It's a little late for me to change sides, I guess.
That's right. So snap out of it, Vicky. 2 more days, we head for New York.
Who is it?
Hey, Jimmy. May I come in?
Sure, Jimmy, sure. The door's not locked.
Thought you'd be in the club car.
Got my own club car. Right here in my own compartment.
Oh. Oh, I see. Do you get train sick? Is that why?
No, I just like a drink now and then. Nothing wrong with that, is there?
Oh, of course not, Vicky. If you want me to go...
Why should I want you to go? Sit down. Look at the scenery. It goes by.
I've just been talking to Dr. Whalen.
Dr. Whalen. That calls for another drink. You want one?
Vicky, don't you think you've had enough?
I've had enough of something, but it's not this.
Okay.
What you looking at?
The countryside.
Oh,
Makes me kind of ashamed of myself.
you ashamed.
Look at it, Vicky.
September 8th, 1949, Counterspy on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Attention Walmart shoppers. Now you can order one of the most advanced hearing aids on the market for hundreds, not thousands of dollars. Hearing Assist's most advanced product lineup includes models that use an exclusive app for enhanced control over what you want to hear. It's perfect if you have a smartphone or iPhone to hear everything better. And we have 2 great ways for you to get one. You can call the number at the end of this ad and order directly. Or you can call this same number and we will text you a complete list of Walmart Vision Center locations. We make it easy for you to hear better. Remember, call this number today to order and have a text message instantly sent to your phone to find the Walmart Vision Center near you. Here's that special number.
Call 800-360-0597. 800-360-0597. 800-360-0597. That's 800-360-0597.
Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite station. We're listening to an episode of Counterspy, as it was originally broadcast on Thursday, September 8th, 1949. In the newspapers of that Thursday, 73 years ago today, these were some of the headlines. Chairman Tom Connolly, Democrat of Texas of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, asserted yesterday that Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek absconded with $138 million in gold from the Chinese nationalist treasury. He made the charge during Senate debate over the administration's policy of withholding further aid from the Chinese nationalists. Senator William F. Nolan, the Republican of California, who's leading a drive to write $175 million for China into the pending foreign aid arms bill, touched off the verbal fireworks by demanding the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff visit the Far East. Senate Republican leader Kenneth S. Wary of Nebraska joined in the exchange with an accusation that the administration is muzzling General Douglas MacArthur on the subject of aid to China. Infuriated by the attacks, Connolly struck back with a denunciation of the discredited, defeated Chinese nationalist government. British Chancellor of the Exchequer, Sir Stafford Cripps, said yesterday Britain is prepared to take drastic steps to solve her critical dollar shortage, but that she cannot succeed without American and Canadian help. He assured American and Canadian representatives to the 3 power economic tops in Washington that Britain has no intention of asking for any charitable aid or for any special direct assistance beyond that which is contemplated under the Marshall Plan. Wiley B. Rutledge's physician said last night that paralysis affects the critically ill Supreme Court justice's entire left side, Dr. Elmer Tower reported that the 55-year-old justice who suffered a cerebral hemorrhage remains in the slightly improved condition of the last few days. York's Hospital Nightly Bulletin only stated that the justice's basic condition remains unchanged. Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt will address a non-segregated audience of white and Negro churchwomen from 12 southern states in Atlanta tonight. The wife of the late President Roosevelt is in Atlanta for a 2-day conference on human and civil rights, which begins today at the Wesley Memorial Church. After sampling 134 different kinds of eggs, scientists at Cambridge University of England concluded that the emu, an ostrich-like Australian bird, lays the world's tastiest eggs. They said the test proved the theory that eggs with the most colorful shells are the worst tasting. The American eastern house wren drew the doubtful honor of laying the world's worst tasty egg. And by a district court ruling in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, persons owning illegal slot machines, they'll have to pay taxes as well as a fine. Judge said the machines are property and taxable as such, and just because operation of a one-armed bandit is prohibited by law doesn't make it any less property. Oh, and news from policeman Jack Caldwell of Upson County, Georgia. He says he and Georgia revenue agents are still destroying an average of 1 liquor still a day in the county. Those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Thursday, September 8th, 1949, on your radio Counterspy, which continues now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Wide and rolling. Those wheat fields. Pretty in the sun, aren't they?
So pretty.
The doctor's right.
The doctor? Oh, yes, Dr. Wade.
Vicky, I've decided something. This country's big enough for everything, everybody. The mountains we went through. The plains we'll be rolling over soon. There's room in it for every man, even a guy like me, a half... Sorry, Vicky.
The doc told you that, huh?
Yeah, but I added something of my own. Vicky, this country's big, but it needs me. I'm alive. I've got something to give it. Me and 1 million other men and women like me. The trouble is, it's kind of slow to wake up to the fact. Sort of stupid. But I'm going to help smarten it up.
You are?
Sure, Vicky, and you, too.
You know something, Jimmy? You know who's stupid?
No, Vicky, who?
You're stupid.
Oh,
And a sucker. Oh, what a sucker. You're not a strong one. You're not like the doc. You're not like me. Strong ones. That's me.
Vicky, what are you talking about?
The doc. He couldn't even give you a prescription to buy a bandage in a drugstore.
Oh, Vicky, snap
No,
out.
you listen to me. Tell you a beautiful story about a rat. A pretty rat. You think I'm pretty, don't you, Jim?
Now, Vicky, makes sense.
I wish I didn't, but I do. Jimmy, our organization is a phony, and the doc is a phony, and I'm a phony.
What are you saying?
What am I saying? I'm down off that crutch of yours. And I'll tell you.
Operator, I'm in a railroad station. I only have 8 minutes. I don't know the number, but I've got to talk to Counterspy headquarters in Washington, D.C. Mr. David Harding.
Mr. Peters, call Mr. Harding right away. Mr. Peters, call Mr. Harding right away.
This is Peters, Dave.
Yes, Peters. Has anything come in on the investigation of that benefit for the disabled?
No, Chief, you said it was just routine.
Well, it's not routine anymore. Bring whatever you've got to my office. We've got to go to work. Fast.
And the conclusion of Counterspy from 73 years ago, September 8th, 1949, when this Thursday edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox continues. But first, these important words.
Has someone in your family lost a job recently, and now you can't afford your mortgage payment? Or do you have a rental property and your tenants aren't paying you? We can come to the rescue and pay you cash for your home immediately. Yes, sell your home and get cash all over the phone. without dealing with real estate agents or having to waste time showing your home to lukewarm buyers. You don't need to lose your house to foreclosure. If you have equity in your home, we'll buy your home and give you cash within days, all in a simple over-the-phone and virtual process. Call now before your situation gets worse. Sell a home you can't afford or just need anymore and get the cash you need today. Call this number now.
800-477-4612. 800-477-4612. 800-477-4612. That's 800-477-4612. Paid for by Want to Sell.
We'll wrap up this week of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, heading out to Fort Laramie, an episode from 66 years ago, September 9th, 1956. Buffalo hunters, Captain Quince trailing those who are slaughtering buffalo on Indian land. That's coming up on Friday's Classic Radio Theater, but right now let's wrap up this Thursday edition with the conclusion of Counterspy from 73 years ago, September 8th, 1949, and the case of the courageous Come-On.
He, Brent, are in a corridor of a large New York hotel. Jimmy raises his good arm to knock on the door of room 302, then pauses.
Sure you want to go through with this, Vicky?
I'm sure.
Let it go.
Come in.
Come on. Mr. Hardy?
That's right, Mr. Dover. Come in. Sit down.
This is Miss Vicky Brent I told you about.
Yes. Won't you sit down, Miss Brent?
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Why not sit back, Miss Brent? You don't look very comfortable perched on the edge of that chair.
I'm a little nervous.
No, it's all right, Vicky.
This is my assistant, Mr. Peters. Miss Brent, Mr. Dover.
How do you do, Mr. Peters?
Dover. Now, Mr. Dover, let's listen to you. What about this phony benefit you called me about?
Well, I told you about Dr. Wayland and my part in it.
Sketchily, yes. Well, we've already investigated Wayland. He has a long record as a confidence man and a chiseling promoter.
Well, I think Vicky, Miss Brent can give you a better picture of the setup than I can.
Oh, Miss Brent?
First, Mr. Harding, I want to get one thing straight.
Yes.
Jimmy's got a little blind spot about me. This isn't the first fake deal I've been in. The doc didn't con me into it. I knew what it was all about from the start.
I'm glad you said that, Miss Brent. It's a good beginning.
What?
We've been looking you up, too. Peters.
Victoria Brent, alias Barry, alias Brandon. Indicted for racetrack swindle, suspended sentence. Indicted as suspect in fur theft, probation, and some more.
I couldn't have hidden it if I wanted to.
Well, the important thing is you didn't want to. Now, will you tell your story?
Well, Doc Wayland got the idea to promote this benefit for disabled people. He called me in on the deal, and I went for it.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy was hired by the doc, and the doc gave him a song and dance about useful work and what a great project it was. Make the people aware of the ableness of the disabled.
And I went for it, hook, line, and sinker.
No reason you shouldn't, Mr. Dover. It's a great idea.
I'm keeping that in mind. Go ahead, Miss Brent.
Well, with Jimmy to go around with them and soften them up, the doc promoted half the big names in Hollywood. Well...
Say it, Vicky. They'd take one look at me and drown in their own pity.
I'm sorry, Jimmy.
And now we're supposed to pull the same stunt with the Broadway and radio stars, only I'm not supposed to know that's what it is.
We'll come back to that, Jimmy. Go on, Miss Brent.
The doc set up a phony outfit, the Institute for the Disabled, chartered in some state out west.
Yes, with himself as the sole trustee for the Institute. Yes, we've checked that.
That's right. He was going to send a check for the proceeds of the benefit to the Institute, all right. And be there himself to receive it.
He expected to get away with something that wrong?
No, Mr. Peters, but he expected to be out of the country by the time it was found out.
Well, how far has the organization gone?
All the way. Tickets, advertising. He's even got a Coliseum Hall lined up. Now he just wants to line up some more names.
I notice he's scaled the prices on the tickets from $10 up to $1,000. He's no piker.
Well, anything else, Miss Brent?
No, that's it. I'm glad it's finished.
Yeah, and I guess I'm kind of sorry.
What?
Well, at least somebody was interested in guys like me. Finding out that disabled guys can do lots of jobs as well as they did before they were cracked up.
Jimmy, don't say that.
You know, it's funny. The only guy interested was a crook. And now he won't be around.
Jimmy, I think he may be. For a little while.
What?
I don't get it, Mr. Harder.
When we make an arrest, it's for the good of society. But I'm not sure this case is as simple as that.
Why, I don't understand, Mr. Hardy.
Well, I may be sticking my neck out. But if we plan the how and when of Dr. Whalen's arrest, we'd be doing a lot more for society than we would by picking him up right now.
How's that, Mr. Harding?
I've got an idea that might work if Jimmy and Vicky will cooperate.
Oh, anything you say, Mr. Harding.
There'll be some risk.
Vicky?
I've gone along with you this far, Jimmy. I'll go all the way.
Good. Now make yourselves comfortable. I'll tell you my plan.
Gee, what a crowd, Jimmy. I never figured they'd turn out like this. The Coliseum's jammed.
Yeah, but I'm wondering where's Dr. Whalen?
He'll be here. You stop worrying.
Well, Mr. Harding's too swell about this. I'd hate for him to get in a jam. So you don't think Doc Whalen's wise, do you?
Jimmy, you don't think I tipped him?
Oh, no. No, Vicky. I know you couldn't. What I think about you, well, a guy like me shouldn't.
Jimmy?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know I couldn't cross you out? Tell me.
Oh, Vicky. Oh, there's Doc Whalen. I guess he just came in.
You're looking so happy.
Hello, Jimmy and Vicky. Splendid crowd. Splendid.
Where were you, Doctor? We were getting worried.
Just checking up at the box office, Jimmy. Don't you think it's time Gary Marlowe started the program?
Yeah, sure, Doc. I'll tell him.
He's right over there.
Say, Mr. Marlowe.
Oh, yes, Jimmy? You want me to begin?
Yeah, right away. Oh, and, Mr. Marlowe, don't forget that first guest. He'll be kind of a surprise for everybody.
How could I forget him? Well, here I go.
Good luck, Mr. Marlowe.
Going to start, Jimmy?
Yeah, right away, Dr. Whalen. Let's sit here close and enjoy the show. Huh?
I intend to. We put a lot of work in it.
We've all put a lot of work in it, Doc.
Before we begin the show, there's a special guest I'd like to introduce right now, as he has to leave shortly on urgent business. In fact, this gentleman is always on urgent business. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to present the Chief of the United States Counterspy, Mr. David Harding.
Harding. Jimmy, how did this happen?
Special guest, Dr. Whalen. I thought it was great we could get him. He doesn't make many public appearances.
Oh, yes. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Marlowe. Later on, I want to ask you about a trade secret. In those Western films of yours, how do you get 50 to 100 shots out of one 6-shooter revolver? The counterspies could use a trick like that. But seriously, ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to be here. For the purpose of this benefit is of major importance to America. It's wonderful that more and more of us realize that the disabled can take their places as useful citizens. This occasion is to see that they get their chance, not as a charity, but as a right. And now, will the organizers of this great event come over here? Both of you. Dr. Hobart Whalen. Thank you, Mr. Harding. And Jimmy Dover. Now, I have a surprise for the audience. An actual arrest here on the platform. Ladies and gentlemen, splendid as this affair is, it has one black mark. It was organized by a confidence man, a swindler, a crook. What are you saying? This man here, Dr. Hobart Whalen. Jimmy, I want you to arrest him. I'm getting out. Oh, this crutch has got something besides thieving. Okay, Mr. Harding, I've arrested him. Pretty good for a supposedly disabled man, wasn't it? Now, while my assistant Harry Peters helps Mr. Dover remove the prisoner, I'll tell you, the audience, why we did not cancel this benefit weeks ago, even though we knew the promoter was a crook. We didn't stop it because the cause is close to our hearts. The counterspies employ many so-called disabled men and women. They hold key positions in our code division, communications, and others. So we allowed this benefit to go on. And you may rest assured that at the suggestion of the President's Committee on National Employ the Physically Handicapped Week, your money will go to a legitimate organization interested in this problem. And now, here is Gary Marlowe with the rest of the show.
Golly, Mr. Harding, that was wonderful, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
How's Whalen?
He's unhappy, Dave. 2 of our agents are taking him down to our field office to be booked.
Well, then that winds up things, Jimmy.
Except for me, Mr. Harding.
Yeah. What about Vicky, Mr. Hardy?
Well, she'll have to testify against the doctor, of course.
What will that
means
mean?
jail as a material witness.
Jail?
Of course, if someone would accept responsibility, Vicky could be paroled in his custody.
Oh, I'll do that, Mr. Hardy.
But, Jimmy, you don't...
Oh, Vicky, we've stuck together this long. I can stand it a little longer if you can. Okay, Mr. Hardy?
Okay, Jimmy. In fact, from the sound of things, I'd say very okay. And by the way, when you find time, get in touch with me about becoming a regular counterspy. Will you, Jimmy? Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to present the following message, especially prepared for this Counterspy broadcast, by the Honorable Alban W. Barkley, Vice President of the United States.
Today's disabled veterans and handicapped workers have the full support of the United States government in their quest for suitable employment opportunities. The President of the United States has established a special civilian committee to lend assistance in discharging this national responsibility of providing work for qualified handicapped men and women. The response by businessmen, industrialists, and labor officials has been highly gratifying. But we must intensify our efforts so that a war wound or an industrial accident is not a one-way ticket to the sidelines. I ask your continued interest in those handicapped workers presently employed and added opportunities for those seeking work. I urge all Americans to remember that ability is much more important than disability.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Next week's Counterspy case deals with the teenage terrors who worshipped a heel. The stolen loot that was paid for with a wet handkerchief and hard cash. And the underworld mobster who pulled a switch and continued to be a right guy. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday
to the case of the Flatbush Fagin on Counterspy. Tonight's Counterspy program originated in New York, was directed by William M. Sweet, dramatized by Palmer Thompson, and featured Don MacLachlan and Mandel-Kramer with music by Jesse Crawford. Counterspy is a Phillips H. Lord production for Pepsi-Cola. Enjoy some Pepsi ice cold tonight.
And while Phillips H. Lords wasn't on particularly good terms with J. Edgar Hoover, it appears he was on board with the Truman administration. September 8th, 1949, 73 years ago today, Counterspy here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We thank you for making us a part of your day and on your Thursday. Please thank this station, support their advertisers. It's their kindness and courtesy that allows us to be with you each and every time we roll around. And given radio stations are being hit with a huge increase by the federal government in their licensing fees, please support this station and their advertisers so they can help meet those increased fees. If you miss a day, you don't have to miss a single show. Contact me, Classic Radio Theater at Wyatt Cox. You can also find our webpage, classicradio.stream. That is classicradio.stream. You can stream our shows, learn more about classic radio collecting, find our social media links, and you can buy me a coffee if you're so inclined. I'd appreciate it, too. We're getting hit with extra fees, too. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.